It factor to me is the process of unpacking authenticity because I believe that authenticity is everyone's it factor. Whenever people can just become even more themselves, relaxing into that core sense of self, that is your it factor.
Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the quantum coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this. What's up, Badass Manifestors? I'm super excited. I have a beautiful soul on the show today, Taylor Lou Dixon. She is a certified image consultant, a business mentor specializing in supporting powerhouse female entrepreneurs to discover and use their it factor to grow their influence, impact, and your business. And so today we're going to jam out about what is an it factor and how you can use it and how you can tap into it and so much more. So I'm excited to jam with you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love your energy and this is my favorite topic. So I'm ready to dive in.
Woo-woo. So how did you make your entrance into the online space?
Good question. This was this was 4 years ago when I decided to switch from pouring all of my time and energy into building a business brand, which was a social media agency, where I was very much behind the scenes, to wanting to be the face of my brand and wanting to start coming out and offering coaching services and really serving women to do what I had done the past 3 years of growing and scaling my online business. So that was my first foray into personal branding, the online world, with me being the face. And one thing that I'll say, because I think it's really important for people to understand that this is like a big, courageous move to put yourself out there online. When I decided that this is going to be my path, I had so much resistance around being judged, specifically by my college friends. That was like a really big fear of mine. And I know that a lot of people share this. And so I actually went to a hypnotherapist. And I worked with her through this fear of judgment online. And she made a custom recording for me. And I listened to that every day for 30 days. And after that, I felt so much more empowered when I showed up on my little Facebook lives, even though I was still nervous. And it's been 4 years since then.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, that's a huge sticking point for a lot of people, like putting themselves out there. That was huge for me too. Like, yeah, just that fear of being judged by people that we know. And usually it's like, we make it bigger in our minds of like, we're going to be judged by everyone and like thousands of people, but really it's like a handful of people that we have that concern about. And yeah, I think that stops people. It stopped me for like a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I could go back and just like push myself. So I think it's great that you got hypnotized.
Oh yeah. I was like, I need help. I'd never done that before, but I was like, let's see. And then of course, later I became a certified hypnotherapist because I was like, wow, that's so incredible to see that kind of result so quickly. And it's not that I've never had those things come up since then, but it was a significant breakthrough moment of like, oh, okay, I'm just doing my thing. And I don't really care who's watching, because this is important and I'm on a mission.
Yes. And I think that's the key, right? When your mission becomes bigger than that fear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I just think of it like mission tunnel vision. Mm-hmm. Like, this is my dharma. This is how I'm meant to really, truly impact other people. And every single time I get a comment on my Instagram or someone in my program shares their results of working with me, I remind myself that one person who may be like, that girl Taylor Lou is so weird online, doesn't even matter,
It
because
doesn't
the
matter.
people I am able to influence and impact just fuel me. And that's for me growth and service. That's why I'm here. So
Yeah.
I totally resonate with that.
Yeah. Which is why we probably connected, because that's what I'm all about too. Growth and
Mhm.
service, baby, all the way.
Yeah,
And the ripple effect, right? Of that.
absolutely.
So I had another random question pop in my head, which is, as you kind of came in from being having a social media business and then being the face of the business, did you know what you wanted your niche to be? Because I think that that's a huge thing when people come into the space of like, who am I and who am I speaking to? Like, did you know that right off the bat?
I generally had an idea, but it took me probably 3 years to really dial in my messaging. And in the beginning, I knew I was offering business coaching services to multi passionate millennials.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of my thing. And specifically helping multi passionate millennials figure out what kind of business they wanted to start. And then that first little bit of getting started. And so much of that is mindset. So I was doing a lot of kind of lifestyle design coaching, mindset coaching, also going deep into my trainings simultaneously. And then at some point, I switched over to working with people who are a little farther along in their business journey. And then really last year was when I was like, oh, discovering my it factor and my secret sauce within my business, within my niche, within this industry just became so clear. And since then, my business has like maybe tripled. It's
Yeah.
been exponential growth since then.
I'm so glad you share that, because I think that there's a lot of people like I have a coaching academy certification. So coaches are coming in to get certified, and basically they're coming out and they're like, okay, I know I want to, like, they want to discover what that it factor is. Like, they
Mhm.
want to know who they're meant to serve and how they're meant to serve them. And I think that Taylor's example for you guys is so powerful because it's a fucking journey, right? Like, it is a
Totally.
journey, and it's a spiritual journey too. Like, through it all, you're getting all this personal development, and you're seeing what's coming up in your reality, what's working, what's not, trial, error, all the things. And it doesn't always have to be that way, but I would say for most entrepreneurs, it is that way. And I can relate to like
Mhm.
3-4 years until I like dialed it the fuck in, right? And then that growth just, it's on another level.
Mhm. And I
Yeah.
really feel like the more I committed to knowing myself
Yeah.
on the deepest levels and understanding me as an individual, what's my it factor? What is my authentic self? What is that magnetism that just draws people to me when I'm being myself? The more I understood that, then I could apply it to business and apply it to everything from what I'm offering in terms of my services, my offers, my products, to my personal brand, to the colors that I choose, to my style. It just really gave me such clarity on every single level of like, oh, this is me. This is my most natural, organic essence. When I'm not trying to be cool, when I'm not trying to put on a show, that's when I'm the most magnetic. And so I've become really obsessed with helping people to understand that most natural essence within themselves. And one other thing that I'll say here is for most of my coaching journey, I was very fixated on finding and becoming my next level self and my
Mhm.
best self and my highest self. And while that was a really potent exploration for a time, what I found is when I started going within and started excavating my past, that's when I really discovered this natural essence piece.
Mm.
And it became less of trying to become something and always reaching for the next level, the next thing, the next step, and really just softening and remembering and relaxing into who the F I am.
Yes. You're allowed to say it on here. It's fine.
Okay, good.
That's so powerful. And when you were saying that before, what was coming to me was like, it's probably a lot of unlearning for people. And it's like peeling those layers back and back and back and back. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the other thing I want to say, just talking about my journey, is that even though I lacked a lot of clarity for about 3 years out of the 4 of my coaching journey, I was still able to scale to 6 figures and then multiple 6 figures before dialing in all of this. And so I think asking these questions, if you're listening and you are earlier on in your business journey, asking these questions now is so beneficial. And hopefully this will like cut the time in half of the time that I spent trying to figure this out. And if it's not clicking in right away, just know there's still so much you can do. There's so many ways to serve and so many people who will just be attracted to you and your energy before your message is necessarily like super concise and clear.
So true. It's more your energy than anything. Cause I know when I first started too, like I was still making money, like people were still wanting to work with me. And I'm like, this is cool. I don't know what I'm doing. Like I literally had no idea, but looking back, it's definitely like, it's the energy you bring.
Yeah. That's the beauty of mentorship.
Yeah, it totally. Totally. So I think you touched on it, but like, what's your definition of it factor?
So it factor to me is the process of unpacking authenticity.
Okay.
Because I believe that authenticity is everyone's it factor. So whenever people can just become even more themselves, relaxing into that core sense of self, that is your it factor. And so I always think of it in terms of celebrities and the entertainment industry. There are certain actors, certain performers that just blow up in fame. And more often than not, it's because they just seem like they have something different and something unique going on. And it feels like they're really true to themselves, whether or not that's true, because a lot of it is cultivated by people.
Yeah, right.
The professionals make it feel like you are really experiencing someone who has a different flavor, who has a different essence about them.
I have Billie Eilish just coming into my mind.
Yes.
Right? Like, you're like, who is this alien? Like that she's so fucking cool and different and weird. Like
totally.
And it's intriguing. It's very intriguing.
Right. And so and that's what I always think about when I'm teaching about it factor, is like, it's so much less about like even necessarily what's that star quality and more about what makes you stand out by you being more yourself. And then leveraging that to make more money, to have more clarity on the way that you're crafting your personal brand, the way that you're showing up online, the way that you are attracting friendships and community and partnerships. Like I am so passionate about this because I feel like it trickles down into every single area of life. The more you understand yourself, the more confident you're going to feel and the more magnetic you'll be, period.
Amen. Like, feel you on that. And I do want to bring up this one element that I'm, getting more educated in, which is just like this sacred inclusion, right? Because I do feel like when you are like, the coaching industry right now is predominantly like white females that are attractive and whatever, like this whole, like, it's a predominant thing. And there's so many coaches out there who, they're different, right? Like some are big and some are skinny and some are black and some are white and some are Asian and some are Indian, and everyone's so different. And like, I think what you're doing is you're talking to the authentic part of who you are and owning it fully.
Yes.
Which I think is so fucking powerful.
Yeah. And the way that I usually phrase it is intentionally amplifying it.
Yes.
Like, how do you take, for instance, and I can share more about my it factor method process and kind of the 3 different aspects that we look at when I help people with this discovery process of it factor. But one of the main things that we look at is your natural essence, which I've mentioned several times already. And I have people kind of, again, excavate their past, look into their past story and the different chapters and iterations of self, and distill it down to five main words that really capture your most natural essence. And one of my words is vibrant. From a very young age, I have always been a very colorful person. I have bright red hair, very bright energy. I like to wear bright colors and funky different things. And so when I map that across onto my personal brand, the colors that I choose are very vibrant. My personal style is very vibrant and colorful. And I'm intentionally amplifying that in every aspect of my life because I know that's easiest for me. And that's easiest for all of you listening, to just simply focus on amplifying your natural strengths, your natural gifts, your natural essence, versus trying so hard to like learn to be better or, get a million certifications to be a flowy goddess, when really your energy is much more direct and powerful and just different, and obviously both are powerful, but it's just easier. There's less resistance when you focus on just amplifying what you already got.
Instead of trying to fit into a box of what you think you should be too.
Right. Which, back to your point on inclusion in this white female dominated industry, it can feel tempting to want to try to mold more into that, to try to reach the same level of success that we see other people who fit this description achieving. And I personally feel like there's so much shifting in our industry right now, and that's just not going to be cool anymore.
No.
And people are going to smell that lack of authenticity from a mile away. And to me, it's not even like, I hate to say like lack of authenticity, because I don't resonate with being the authenticity judge,
Right. Yeah.
Everyone is just trying to figure it out, especially in the coaching industry. It's so new. We're all just on our path, trying to figure it out, doing the best we can.
Agree.
And I do think that people who have platforms like you do, where you have a podcast, and like I do, where I have an Instagram following, it is important for us to be talking about, hey, you don't need to be like us to be successful. You don't need to be like Susie Q, who just made $500,000 in 1 minute. You don't need to be like those people, right? The more you are yourself, that's the direction we're going in. That's going to be the key to success moving forward.
Wow. Yes. 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 Okay, cool. So would love to hear more about your process of go into it. Tell us.
Yeah, let's dive in. Okay. So there's 3 different parts, and basically the end goal of looking at these 3 different sections is coming up with something called your It Factor statement. That's something that I share inside of my It Factor Method course that lays out this entire process, in addition to the identity mapping process, which helps people go back into the past and really be in deep reflection, which I think is a little different about the way that I teach this. But the 3 parts that I want to share with you today are: part 1, we already discussed, natural essence. This is just the natural energy that you put out. That is just, again, something that's probably been unique to you from a very young age, and with you from a very young age. Even asking your parents, like, what are a few words to describe me when I was 10 years old? You're going to get a lot of insight simply by asking those types of questions. The second part to this is convicted message. And again, looking through past chapters of life to better understand, what has life prepared you to speak about, to teach about with conviction. And I think the important part about what I do is helping people distill that down into like 1 or 2 sentences.
Yeah.
1 or 2 sentences. And that doesn't mean that you don't have plenty of other things to share about, but in regards to coming up with a concise, focused, concentrated message, having that clarity on, okay, out of all the things that I could be sharing about with conviction, what is it that life has really prepared me to say, like, listen, I know this to be true from the bottom of my soul and heart. This is so important. I want everyone to know this. And one kind of quick tool that I like to give people is, if you were in front of a former version of yourself right now, so most of the time our clients kind of fit this description, or you can think of one of your favorite clients that you have right now and they're in front of you. If you could shake them, if you were shaking them and saying, like, I just want you to understand this.
Yeah.
Like, I just wish you knew blank.
That's good.
What would you say to them?
Yeah.
And that's a good place to start with convicted message, just like seeing what comes out. And then the last part is defining your embodied medicine. Now, with this piece, it's all about what is your natural and effortless impact on other people. And a lot of people that I talk to about this and share this with, they go straight to kind of their I help statement.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, well, I help female entrepreneurs to grow their businesses to 6 figures. And that's great. We need that too. But in this part of the process is really, again, going back to childhood, going back to those different phases of life. How did people interact with you? What was just those impacts, small or big, that you had on people when you were feeling yourself, when you were feeling authentic? And what I noticed for myself and my own discovery with this is that the more that the times in which I have just been unapologetically myself, vibrant AF, is when I've noticed that it is such a catalyst and inspiration for others to also be more expressed. And so that's a big part of my embodied medicine. And once again, I just want to drive home the point that this, at this point of inquiry, has nothing to do with your business.
Yeah.
Separate this from your business for now. And that was the key differentiator for me, because I realized, like, okay, when I really get down to the nuts and bolts of who is Taylor Lou, what is her power? What is she here to say, do, create? And realizing, like, wow, when I'm not trying, this is what happens. This is the impact that I have. This is the way that I show up. This is the innate power that I contain.
So good.
And I'm telling you, like, this has been life-changing. And it's not that you don't already know these things. You do already know these things. But what I found with working with many, many women with this process is that it can be so difficult for us to see ourselves. And that's based on my process with it and reflections that I've gotten of people who tell me it's just so difficult to see myself clearly and my own power and my own gifts. And I think that's why oftentimes people look to what's working, who has the most Instagram followers, blah, 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 and then try to mimic that, because that's easier than actually sitting down and doing the work of answering the question, who am I?
Yes. And some of you might be feeling a little punched in the gut right now, and that's okay.
Totally okay. I was there not that long ago.
So good. Okay. Want to go back to like a couple of things that you just said. Love your process. I think it's beautiful. And like the conviction piece, I talk about this a lot, as far as just like when I'm talking to my one-on-one clients, or like even in a mastermind that I'm in and I'm, pep talking someone or like helping someone work through something. And I'm like, show up with that conviction. And I get so into it. And I really resonate with that, because it can, anytime that I've been in the presence of a leader that had major conviction, I was just just in awe of them. Like, give me what you got. I want it.
it sounds like that's a part of your convicted message too, is really helping people, or not even helping people, just really emphasizing like having conviction is so important.
Totally.
Like, having conviction is essential to being an effective leader.
Yes, it really is though. I believe,
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that. And I feel that conviction from you too. And you can feel that energy from someone because it's so straightforward.
And it's magnetic.
And it is magnetic.
Right?
Yeah. So if you're feeling that right now, listening to this, you can see what we mean by it, because I think that's why, yeah, it is magnetic.
And one thing that I want to say about all of this too is, so once you understand what is it about you as an individual that makes you magnetic, and how do you kind of better understand your expression of authenticity. Once you have that, then there's so many interesting ways to apply that to your business. And I want to give one example here from one of my current clients. She, with her convicted message, and actually her embodied medicine is relevant to this as well. Her convicted message is all about the power of vulnerability. And her embodied medicine is really being that catalyst for vulnerability. And she's been in some of my programs for years, on and off. And every time she signs up for a group container, I'm so excited because she's such a leader in vulnerability. I know that if she's in there, she's going to crack us all open within that first call and just go there.
Yeah.
And so when in my Reinvent Business Academy, that she's currently a part of, we were talking a lot about your it factor, how that applies to business. And she is really passionate about helping veterinarians with mental health. That is her big thing. And she decided to put together a panel event for universities for veterinarian students.
Wow.
Specifically, and this was influenced and sparked by understanding her it factor, specifically having established vets come on and share vulnerable stories of experiences that they've had in the profession.
Holy shit, that's cool.
So she's literally taking that thing that is already so natural for her. Like, she doesn't have to try to do this. And she's infusing it into her business model. She's infusing it into what she's naming her programs, and this amazing panel for vets to get a little vulnerable and hear from people they respect about difficult times that they've gone through. Wow.
That's amazing. That is so cool. So different.
Yeah. And I think that's this process, and even just thinking about this, whether you use my process or not, just having this awareness of self and intentionally applying it to business, you're going to start thinking outside the box. And that's another thing that I think you might agree, in our industry right now, we're just hungry for things that are different.
Yeah.
Both people who look different and have different backgrounds being in leadership, and also people who are putting together their programs a little differently and getting creative and all of that. When you set yourself free of all the shoulds, that's when the creativity comes in.
So good. So good. I love that so much. Wow. I think that people are probably a little mind blown and like taking this in and kind of assessing themselves and thinking about what is their it factor and what are those words, and like do the work. You're like, don't just listen to it, do the work around it and see the difference.
And take one small step with it.
Yeah.
Like one small step. If there's one thing that stood out to you in our conversation today, one action item that I shared, run with that.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed once you open the portal to this, you'll just get downloads for days. Like, this is exactly what happened to me. Is I started just thinking more deeply about myself, because I realized, I'll share a little bit of backstory here. When 2020 happened, I love how we say that these days. When 2020 happened, at that point, my business model was heavily geared towards in-person events.
Wow.
And so that was like my bread and butter, both group retreats, high touch, private retreats, workshops, all the things. And so I found myself in this very reactive place in business at the beginning of 2020 because I had to just create some new offers to keep my business running. And then about 6 months in, I found myself feeling very unaligned with what I had created because it was coming from this place of like need, desperation. I just got to figure something out. And it's not that that was a bad thing. I had to do that at the time. And it actually was the best thing that ever happened because that put me in this vulnerable, tender, open place of, okay, now that everything has shifted and everything's up in the air, what is the direction that I want to take in terms of brand positioning, in terms of my offers, in terms of my lifestyle, all of it. And so I felt like a blank page, and I got to just kind of reassess what is important to me and how do I want to craft my brand and my business from here on out. And that's when I started thinking about all of these deeper questions. And the portal was opened, and all of a sudden I saw like visions of like, this is what your life is going to look like in 5 years. Like, this is the exact programs you need to birth to get there. And right afterwards, I birthed a new signature course called Reinvent You, which is my signature personal branding course. Then I went into my Reinvent Business Academy. See, there's a theme here. Reinvent You, Reinvent Business Academy.
Yourself.
Totally. And then the It Factor method came from that because I realized like, oh, I've been doing this thing, and I've then started teaching it. And so then the It Factor method, which is a $97 course, by the way, I wanted it to be like super accessible for people to get this level 1 of what I'm talking about here. And then, several other things came through. So it's just been such a whirlwind of clarity. Like, I just feel more clear than I ever have before. And that is the best feeling as an entrepreneur.
It's the best feeling.
Best feeling.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your method and your transformation. Because I think it's really inspiring for people to hear that are in that place of not knowing or feeling lost or feeling like an imposter syndrome, all of that stuff. And yeah, it's really, really inspiring. And yeah,
it can change in an instant.
It can. It really
in
can.
an instant. And usually it's when you're more in that rock bottom place that you're open for that truth to come through.
So true.
So if you're listening and things have felt crunchy lately, I would just really take advantage of that. That can be a really beautiful place to be in. And just know you're not alone. We've all been there.
We really have. So I have to ask you, Taylor, what makes you a badass manifester?
It's my spark. It's my vibrancy. It really is. And when I really amplify that, and when I just am so myself, like kind of quirky, loud, opinionated, out there, that is what makes me a badass manifester. All of a sudden things show up that I'm like, whoa, I wasn't even intentionally manifesting that, but it's just because I've been turned on by everything and I feel my spark. So that would be my answer.
Thank you for sharing that. So good. Okay. Where can everyone find you and get into your vibrancy?
Yes. So Instagram is my favorite place to hang out. Taylor Lou, Lou coaching. You can find me there. Please send me a DM. If you've listened to this and you've got some thoughts, I'd love to hear from you. And then I'd love to share my It Factor Method course with your audience for 30% off of $97. And if any of you purchase that and want to chat with me about that, I would love to add some extra support and getting clarity on everything we talked about today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll post all the links in the show notes. We hope that you guys have a great day. Tag us. Let us know what your fave part was.
Yes.
And we'll see you. Bye. Bye. Woo. We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram at Manifest with Ash. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get 'em.